King Charles has begun formally transferring royal duties and authority to Prince William, marking the first significant step toward an unprecedented transition of the British throne. This development signals a deliberate and carefully managed change in leadership, one that raises complex legal and constitutional questions about the future of the monarchy. Within Buckingham Palace, preparations have already begun to redefine roles, review royal titles, and adjust long-standing ceremonial responsibilities tied to the crown. At the center of this process is Queen Camilla, whose position is directly linked to King Charles's reign. As Prince William prepares to assume greater power, the palace must determine how Camilla will be styled once her husband is no longer the sovereign. Her current title, Queen Consort, exists only as long as Charles remains king. When that ends, her role and public standing must be redefined. In this report, we'll examine what this transition means for the monarchy, the law, and for the woman who has stood beside the king for decades. Stick to the very end to find out what's really happening behind the palace doors, and why this transition is unlike anything the monarchy has faced before. This isn't a simple succession, it's a royal earthquake. For over 1,000 years, the British crown has only passed from one monarch to another upon death. The phrase, "the king is dead, long live the king," has defined the continuity of power for generations. But this time, the monarch is very much alive, and by choice or by circumstance, he's preparing to pass the crown while still on the throne. That makes this transition one of the rarest and most delicate events in royal history. Inside Buckingham Palace, it's not ceremony, it's strategy. Advisors are locked in private meetings, navigating centuries of precedent that were never designed for a living king stepping aside. Constitutional experts warn that even a symbolic handover could spark questions about authority, legitimacy, and the very stability of the monarchy itself. Every signature, every title, every act of royal duty now carries new meaning and new risk. Behind the scenes, the ripple effects are already being felt. Departments are redrafting orders of precedence, courtiers are rehearsing new protocols, and lawyers are examining what happens when royal titles tied to the reigning monarch, especially that of Queen Camilla, suddenly lose their foundation. Because when a crown shifts before its time, it doesn't just change the future, it reshapes the entire royal hierarchy. To understand what happens to Camilla's title, we have to look at how royal titles actually work. Under British common law, the wife of a reigning king automatically becomes Queen Consort. It's not granted by Parliament, and it doesn't require a special ceremony. It's a title by marriage and by law, inseparable from the monarch's reign itself. But while law defines the title, power defines how it's used. Every royal style, from prince to queen, is shaped by an ancient instrument known as a letters patent. It's a formal document, sealed and signed by the sovereign, that decides who carries which title, under what conditions, and for how long. Through these letters, monarchs have created and redefined royal identities for centuries, from George V limiting who could be called prince, to Queen Elizabeth II restoring titles to William and Kate's children. So when the reign ends, the letters, and the titles they bestow, lose their force. That means the moment King Charles steps down, the title Queen Camilla effectively dissolves. It doesn't need to be taken away, it simply stops existing. The law is cold and clear. What happens next, however, depends less on legal ink and more on royal intent and public perception. The moment Prince William becomes sovereign, the title Queen Camilla loses its legal foundation. It doesn't require a royal order or an act of parliament. It just ends. The title exists only as long as her husband wears the crown. When that reign closes, so does hers. There won't be a dramatic announcement or an official stripping of honors. The palace doesn't work that way. Instead, the change comes quietly, through wording, invitations, and appearances. Her name begins to disappear from programs. Her title fades from introductions. Portraits are moved, seating plans rewritten, and palace communications adjust their tone almost overnight. To the public, it will look subtle, maybe even respectful. But behind that calm transition lies a powerful message. Camilla's time at the center of the royal stage is over. Whether she's called Duchess, Dowager, or nothing at all, she'll soon learn that in the royal world, titles don't just define status, they define existence. Once King Charles steps down, Camilla's title can't stay the same, it has to change. And the palace has only a few options, each carrying its own meaning. The first and most traditional is Queen Dowager, sometimes called Queen Daga in older records, a formal title used for the widow or former consort of a monarch. It's respectful, yes, but it also locks her story firmly in the past. It says, her reign happened, but it's over. The second possibility is a return to something more familiar, Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. Elegant, established, and politically safe. It removes the confusion of two queens and returns her to the role she once held without controversy. The final, and most modern, option is quiet rebranding. No queenly title at all. She might appear simply as Camilla, performing limited engagements or none at all. No announcement, no ceremony, just a gradual fade. Whichever title she ends up with, it won't just be about protocol. It will define how history remembers her, as a queen in transition, a duchess in retreat, or a royal ghost of a bygone era. A change in title always brings a change in power, and for Camila, that means her royal life may shrink overnight. The patronages, the appearances, the public spotlight, all of it tied to her position as queen, will now be reviewed. Some insiders believe she'll keep a few ceremonial causes, perhaps literacy and domestic violence awareness, the charities closest to her heart. But the wider schedule? That's likely to disappear, absorbed by Queen Catherine and the next generation of working royals. Where Camila lives will matter too. Clarence House, her current residence, is a royal property held through the crown. Once her title ends, her access to it may change. Some sources say she could quietly relocate to Highgrove, one of Charles's private estates, a symbolic retreat from public life. William's vision of a modern, streamlined monarchy leaves little room for overlapping queens. And as his reign begins, visibility becomes strategy. For Camila, that means fewer cameras, fewer invitations, and a new life lived mostly out of sight, royal in name, but private in practice. For Prince William, this transition isn't risk-free. Every decision about Camila carries political, personal, and emotional weight. If her removal appears cold or calculated, public sympathy could turn fast, and critics in Parliament or the press won't hesitate to call it cruel. The monarchy depends on stability, and even a hint of family conflict could stain the image of a new reign before it truly begins. King Charles, even after stepping back, may quietly resist any move that feels like a demotion of his wife. Courtiers, the unseen operators of royal order, are already working to avoid open confrontation. They know how to make someone disappear from the stage without causing scandal, the soft removal, done firmly but silently. Still, behind the diplomacy lies danger. Leaks, housing disputes, or subtle refusals could expose fractures inside the palace. And in the social media age, even a whisper of internal tension can become tomorrow's headline. For William, the challenge is clear: modernize the monarchy without turning it against itself. Queen Camilla's place in history will depend on what she does next. To some, she'll be remembered as a loyal consort who stood beside Charles through decades of turmoil, a woman who weathered scandal, earned acceptance, and carried out her duties with quiet resolve. To others, she'll remain a symbol of controversy, the outsider who stepped into Diana's shadow and never truly escaped it. In the end, she may become what historians call a transition queen, respected privately, diminished publicly, remembered only as the bridge between two reigns. Still, legacy is never fixed. Camilla's years of charitable work, from promoting literacy to supporting victims of domestic abuse, may soften the edges of public opinion. And if she steps away with dignity, choosing silence over spectacle, she could reclaim something rare for a royal figure once cast in conflict: genuine respect. But if she resists, or if the palace mishandles her exit, history will write her as a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the monarchy, every crown eventually comes with a cost. As Queen Catherine and King William begin their chapter, one era ends and another begins. The crown moves, the story changes, and the world is watching. What side are you on? Team Camila or Team Catherine? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this royal deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories behind the palace walls, where power, love, and legacy are never truly settled.